Friends, thanks again for joining today. My name is Tim Jones. I'm the Director of Communications for the Holston Conference, and Holston Communications is very, very excited about today's webinar. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know a couple of things that are taking place. We're really working on putting more of these training webinars out. I want to let you know that on November 16th, we'll be having our Sermon Academy. Normally that's an in-person event, but we've decided to do that virtual. And I'll be getting more information out to you very, very soon. And then on November 17th, that following Tuesday, we're having a training day. And Holston Communications is teaming up with United Methodist Communications to offer 3 different training opportunities. It's going to be spread throughout the day. We'll start at 10 and do one webinar. Then at 11, we'll do another webinar. And then at 2 o'clock, we'll do an additional webinar. And if you can attend all 3, that would be great. If you can only do one, that's okay too. And we'll continue to do things like that throughout the rest of this year and into next year. But our training day on November 17th, we'll have a session where we talk about leading successful online worship. We'll have another session about digital storytelling, and then a final session about Facebook groups for ministry and the changes that are taking place within the social media realm. But today we're going to be talking about Advent in the online church, and excited to have Reverend Stephen Martin here leading us through this. He is the founder of the Lakelands Institute. He's been a clergy member of Holston since 1989, and he's the former director of communications for the National Council of Churches. He's also a documentary filmmaker, and you may have seen his film, Theologians Under Hitler, amongst others. But he is here today, and he's going to be leading us through this presentation and also letting us know about some other training materials that he has coming out and available to us now. So thank you again for attending, and really looking forward to this. And I just want to introduce Steve and have him come on the screen and take it away. Steve, thanks again. Really appreciate you being here.
Hey everybody. Thanks, Tim. I really appreciate. I've told Tim 100 times, I think, if not, I need to tell him 100 more how much I appreciate this opportunity. My name is Steve Martin. Most of you know me as Steve. I go by my formal name is Reverend Stephen D. Martin, and that may be for some fairly obvious reasons. There's another guy I think that I've heard of it goes by the name of Steve Martin, some celebrity type. Anyway, I've had the pleasure of serving churches in Holston Conference for a while, but I've leapt off the cliff and gone into some perhaps just different and more specialized kinds of ministry in the last few years. But I got my start at Enterprise in St. Paul, United Methodist Churches in Piney Flats, Tennessee. Went from there to Wesley Memorial in Cleveland as an associate, and then went from there to spent 5 really great years at Unicoi United Methodist Church, and then 7 really great years also at my home church in Oak Ridge, First Oak Ridge, as an associate. I got interested in all this stuff mainly because I'm just a constant tinkerer. And I started making documentary films in around 2000, had some success there, decided to pursue that, and that took me up to Washington, D.C., where I live right now. So finished up my time at the National Council of Churches back in May, and am doing this, which the Lakelands Institute is an effort that's really dear to my heart. I'm trying to simply stand beside pastors and church leaders who are struggling through trying to deal with this online worship world. And this is what I'm here for today, to talk specifically about Advent and ways that that we need to be in ministry to people during Advent. So I'm going to first of all kick us off. I want to hold your attention and want to keep you to the very end of this of this webinar by taunting you with a giveaway. I will be giving away a copy of my online Worship Academy course. It's an online course. I'll tell you a little bit more about it later. But if you go to that link that's on the screen, lakelandsinstitute.com/advent, you'll see a form that you can fill out that will enter you in that giveaway. And then at the end of this webinar, I will be allowing the system to pick a winner, and we'll be sharing that news with everybody else. So I know that if you don't really care about the content at all of this webinar, you will certainly want to stick around to be part of that drawing and that giveaway. It's kind of fun. So I'm going to draw you back to the time that all this started, just as a way of remembering and reminiscing and thinking about how much we've been through in the last few months. I think of the lockdowns really beginning on March 12th, March 13th. That's when it all really closed up and things, it was apparent that everything was going to change radically. And I'm sure you remember that too. And I'll also call your attention to the fact that Palm Sunday, Holy Week, began April 5th, very shortly afterwards. I don't know how you felt about things at that time, but I just remember thinking, well, this is serious, this is big, but it hadn't all sunk in yet. And it certainly didn't really feel like it was going to be something long-term. So there was a lot of grief around Holy Week and Easter, because I think it was maybe the first Easter Sunday, certainly in my lifetime, really in memory. I mean, even maybe going back to the 1918 flu, where churches were closed. Where we had an Easter Sunday where we could not be together. And that was a serious, I think, time of grief and mourning and searching. I was part of the staff of the National Council of Churches at that time. And I remember that the three main ecumenical organizations in the country, we got together and tried to kind of distribute some resources to help people connect with the holiday and even offer a public witness. We recommended ways that people could display signs of their faith on their front yards for their neighbors, with "Christ is risen indeed" kinds of signs. And we created even a coloring sheet for kids to do at home for Easter. So that was a really critical time. Then we've gone into the summer, which of course, is it's maybe not the best attended time of the year for worship services, but now we kind of find ourselves heading towards All Saints Day. All Saints Day is, I guess it's this weekend, isn't it? It's the Sunday that follows October. And there's a lot of different ways of celebrating All Saints Day and remembering that. But I think this is really a critical service for a lot of us who take a time out during worship to remember those who have passed over the last year. This year, I think it's going to be especially critical. It is going to be very important for us to remember those who have been lost to COVID-19. But, and I think the disease has touched a lot of our families in our churches. So that's especially important to remember. But I think that really it's a time where we're going to be grieving and mourning for everything, all the kinds of things that have been lost in this last year. Whether you are in a part of the world where, everything's been kind of locked down, that's certainly the way it feels up here in Maryland and Washington, D.C., or if you've been in a place where it really hasn't touched the community all that much. It's affected all of us, and there have been things that we have not been able to do in the last year that we're going to need to acknowledge. Now, Advent, as we know, is primarily a time of hope. It is a time of projecting forward and thinking about the hope that lies before us. Scripturally, Advent begins with lessons, with visions of the end time, the consummation of all things. And then in kind of reverse, and maybe, this is one of the nice paradoxes of Christian faith, the season ends with the Annunciation, with the announcement that Jesus is the fulfillment of all things, that Jesus is coming, and that Jesus's arrival, his life, his death, his resurrection, that in itself is the end that is apparent before us. And I think it's going to be very interesting to point out that a theme that can be tied into Advent this year is that the pandemic is not the end of the world. The world will keep going, but it does represent an ending. I liken it to the lessons that we've been going through in the last few weeks out of the Exodus. It is a leaving of Egypt. It is a going out into the wilderness. It is a loss of something. And you say, well, gosh, the Israelites left slavery. Why would they be looking back? Why would they be thinking about the good old days back in Egypt? Well, if you read scripture, and I'm sure you have, and you know that they did. They longed for the flesh pots of Egypt, where things were kind of, not so good, but at least we knew what we were dealing with. And this pandemic certainly is that kind of thing. So helping people grieve, pointing towards redemption, man, it is just as important as ever. Another thing that we need to think about in faithful terms is the concept of the common meal. I am struck by the idea that every faith tradition in the world centers around a shared sacred meal. In the Christian faith, of course, it's Holy Communion. That's the big sacred meal. But there's also a lot of other lesser sacred meals that point to our community life together and the way God is in the midst of us. There's no mistake as to why we say the blessing every single time we sit down to a holiday meal, or hopefully our evening dinner as well. It's a time where we recognize that God is especially with us in the food that has been provided, and that we are bound together as people, as followers, through that sharing of a common meal together. So what's going to happen if we're not able to meet and eat together this year? What is that like? I'm dealing with an issue in my own life where I live, we're being told that maybe getting the family together for Thanksgiving is not the best idea. That just crushes me. To think that I might not be able to get together with my kids, who I haven't been able to see for a while, to not be able to sit down and have Thanksgiving with my kids breaks my heart. And I know that there are a lot of people struggling with that. We don't want to be in defiance of health guidelines. We want to see each other, but we know there's something about it that might, it's definitely risky. So what if we can't do that? What if we're not able to eat together? How will we connect if we can't connect the way that we're used to? And I think this is the really, really critical thing for Advent this year. This is the thing that we've got to think about and be imaginative about in ways that that we just really have never had to think about before. So as a little bit of background on my story and how this has become a very important kind of conversation for me, in 2001, I made my first documentary film. the thing that struck me the most about this, and just was really revolutionary in my mind, was the way that images and words and music combine together to create a very, very powerful way of communicating. Tim, before we started, Tim was asking me, kind of, thumbnail, how did you get started in the communication side of church? And I think in a lot of ways, church, being a pastor is about communication, whether it's writing for the church newsletter or it's standing in the pulpit and trying to communicate an idea and a set of ideas and inspire people. That is the gift of being a pastor. So but I think that it was really when I started making documentary films and started editing video together, was that when I realized just how emotionally powerful it was. Now, I did a film that was based upon kind of an exploration of life amongst a marginalized community in East Tennessee. And I wanted to connect with those people. And I found out that in the course of creating that documentary, I connected with people. I found a combination, or I found a connection with people as I watched them on the screen. I'd interviewed people for the documentary. And it was like I kind of fell in love with the people on the screen. I heard their experiences. I heard about their lives. I encountered them as human beings, even though they were just images on a screen. And really the idea came to me that while our faith traditions inform us that the best, the highest way, I think that we build community, that we find each other in community, is through that shared meal. Well, what if you can't sit down with people that you don't know? What if you can't sit down with people that you even, have suspicion about or grievance with, perhaps? What if you can't do that? I kind of have been working for the last 20 years or so on the idea that maybe if you couldn't share the meal with somebody, maybe you could a good second good second place kind of notion is through this kind of thing that I'm talking about, combining images, combining words, combining music, combining stories. That if you could do that with people and their faces and so on, then you might be able to create it might be a close second to create that kind of community that we all experience when we go to church, and especially when we sit down at the table together. Now, I want to say, before we go back there, I want to just talk a little bit about a way that you can connect with people, a way that you can provide connection during Advent. And I think that is connection that people are going to be craving the most. And finding hope in that is through reflecting on the past and projecting toward the future. This is, Advent 101. We look toward the past, we project toward the future, and we see the hope that lies ahead in the birth of Jesus and the coming of the Christ into the world. A way we can do that in our community life, I think, again, if we can't sit down at the table together, whether that's metaphorically or not, what we can do is use photographs to connect people. And I want to just suggest a few ways that I have found that I think it's important when you attend a training like this. You don't just kind of get a bunch of empty words, but I want to make sure that you get something concrete that you can take away with you. And I need to talk to you not about a whole bunch of things that I don't know about, but I need to share with you the things that I do know something about. We're going to talk a little bit about the way photographs can be used in our online ministries. And even in our hybrid ministries, this is a really nice way to bring people that can't be together into the worship setting. Okay. So I like to animate photos. And the reason I like to animate photos is because it's easy and it's pretty cheap. And it, again, helps us with that connection between words, stories, music, and images that can be a very, very powerful thing. So let's first talk about how we can obtain photographs from our people. Now, I don't know if this is true in your church, but most churches have plenty of photos lying around. There's always somebody that's got the Polaroid out do anybody use Polaroids anymore? I hope so. Polaroids are fabulous. But, when we're taking new members into the church and putting them up on the board, we got a Polaroid out there and we've got pictures. Pictures are important. Pictures help provide that connection between people. If you have all those pictures in like hard copy form in print, which is a lot of us do, then I'll just suggest to you an app for your phone called PhotoMine. I think there's a paid version of it, but I've just found it to be remarkable for scanning photos. Very easy, makes it very easy. Once you get those printed photos into a scanned electronic form, then there's just tons of stuff you can do with them. Another thing that you might want to think of, especially for it may be, you've still got a few days, I guess, but for All Saints Day, request pictures from family members. If there is, as you are creating a roster of people in your church that have passed in the last year, request pictures from the family that might be shared. Doesn't have to be very many, can be just 2 or 3, but get those photographs of the people that you want to celebrate and remember. Another place you might look is it certainly won't help you with members of your church, but for some supplementary kind of atmospheric photos or clips of video, you can go to stock video and stock photography sources. iStock Photo, Storyblocks. Storyblocks is one that's pretty affordable. Offers rights cleared photographs and video clips. I do find that the videos are better quality than the photos are. The photos kind of have that cheesy stock photo kind of quality to them, but the videos tend to be pretty good. So those are ways that you can add resources to a video presentation that you are creating. Now, I want to talk just a little bit about some easy ways to create animations. All right. PowerPoint is the easiest. PowerPoint is the one tool that I think everybody has. It's the one thing that everybody knows how to use, has some experience with it. And you can just make a very good slide presentation out of PowerPoint and add pictures and animate them as part of your presentation as a way of connecting people. Again, this is not so much about production as it is producing in order to connect people. Do you know Canva? Probably. I think, again, during this pandemic time and time of online worship, Canva has been one of the tools that really has been used very widely. If you're not familiar with the Adobe products, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Adobe Spark and Adobe Rush. Those are 2 very easy, simple ways of creating animations. And then I'm going to tell you about my favorite, which is Animoto. And I'm going to, this is your bonus for the day, is that I know videographers and video producers who make a lot of money. Let's just say they make a lot of money by selling, creating videos with Animoto, which is really kind of like cheating, right? But they look so good and they are so easy to do that some video producers that I know moi. I don't know. You know, you can get away with charging money for Animoto videos, but anyway, enough of that. I'm going to talk about, first of all, talk about Canva. Canva is a good one. It's easy. It's popular. Lots of templates for social media, for memes, for videos, and it's a great tool to use. Now, I'm really not sure about how long the videos are that you can create in Canva. That may be a limitation because, you know, Instagram only lets you put about a minute of video up on Instagram, and unless you do it as another type of presentation. But a lot of the social media forms have a limit put on the time, and Canva may adapt to that. But Canva is a very popular, very easy system to use. Adobe Spark is kind of Adobe's version of Canva. I think it's a way of creating short videos and short clips for social media. Lots of templates, lots of things that are put in place to help you out, but pretty easy to use. It's a little bit more, I think it's a little bit more difficult, a little bit clunkier interface than Canva tends to be, but I definitely put it on the professional side of production tools. It's also web-based. It doesn't require a download or an app. You know, it's web-based, and I do believe that it requires a monthly fee, but it's not terrible. I'm trying to point you towards really, really low cost or free resources here that will get you through. Okay. Another one's Adobe Rush. Adobe Rush is the kind of simplified version of Adobe Premiere. Adobe Premiere is a professional video editing system that probably some of you are using to do your online worship services. But Adobe Rush is kind of the very simplified version of it. It's simplified, but it's very powerful. It also requires a monthly fee, but it's also a standalone app. It's not a web-based application. It's a standalone app that I've used, and it's even fun. I would just say it's fun to use. Now, Animoto, as I said, it's my favorite. There is a free version. You can get started with it using a free version. Obviously, you know, they want to sell you the good stuff, so the free version is fairly limited, but it's still pretty powerful, and you can find out how it all works. The problem, I think, with Animoto is that I remember when I was using it the most a few years ago, it was about $120 a year, which I thought was, you know, it's expensive, but it was affordable. Now it's like $400 a year. So that may put it out of the ballpark for a lot of you. But Animoto takes still pictures and you line them up in an interface. And then you can create transitions between them. You can add text. You can do all kinds of things. It comes with a lot of stock music built in, so you can simply add music to the presentation that you're doing, but you hit play and it's amazing the way their algorithm takes pictures, animates them, and combines them in a very, very moving and powerful way. So I would recommend, and I just, again, I want to make sure that everybody knows I don't have any kind of deal with anybody, not making any money off of any of these products, because I'm just simply telling you what I like. And I would almost, you know, go in the terms of an endorsement of Animoto. It's a very, very powerful, very, very easy to use presentation tool, and it creates videos that you can put into your live stream feed, or you can simply just, you know, if you're doing a pre-recorded worship service, you can just insert those things in. But people love seeing other people in the worship setting. It seems to be the one thing that I have gleaned over and over and over again from dozens and dozens of conversations with pastors who are struggling through various ways of doing online worship. It is the thing that people ask for more and more people in worship leadership, more faces on the screen. And this is a great, great way to help connect people during Advent when we have to still remain socially distanced. I'll make another recommendation about music. There are a lot of ways to get production music into your slide presentations, into your animated videos. Music tends to be a pretty difficult topic in this environment right now because there are copyright issues at play. If you have streamed things on the YouTube platform, you will know that YouTube their algorithm will identify copyrighted music and will ping you very, very quickly. I've seen videos pinged for copyright issues even before they're finished uploading. So YouTube is very aggressive about this. Facebook, not so much. There have been rumors around about Facebook kind of cracking down on copyrighted music, even when you have the CCLI streaming license. There's been rumors that Facebook has been clamping down on that. I actually did some. I called CCLI and asked them, and they clarified that to where it's not as serious as we thought it was there for a little while. But in any case, you need to be careful about using pre-recorded music, if not for a kind of a copyright issue, just for a moral issue. We need to do things that help support musicians in this time or any time, and we need to play it by the book, I think, as much as possible. Epidemic Sound is a company that for a small subscription fee, you can download any number of, just hundreds or thousands of clips of music that I think are really, I'm a musician, so I have kind of a critical, eye toward these kinds of things, but I love the stuff that I get off of Epidemic Sound. Just Google that and you'll find it. Great stuff. Now, this is where I start preaching, okay? The temptation, I think, during this time is to think that online church is kind of a temporary burden. Real church occurs in our sanctuary buildings, and that the online thing is a stopgap. I could go on and on and on about a critique of that point of view, but I think most importantly for this discussion today, we need to think of what things are going to be like going forward. Right now, a lot of our churches are open back up. COVID rates are rising rapidly as the weather is getting colder. And you can definitely see this in states like North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and so on. The real cold weather states in the Midwest are just seeing rates spike very quickly. And as we get into cold and flu season, I think the likelihood of us being in this online worship environment is for a pretty long time. I think it's very strong. And therefore, I think the more we embrace these forms, the better off we'll all be. And there's a lot of discussion right now about, I think you probably heard it, Phyllis Tickle saying, for instance, other people saying, every 500 years, the church experiences some major shakeup, and we're due for one right now. I think it's possible that what we're experiencing now is God doing something brand new in the midst of the church. It's painful, it's difficult, it is challenging, and it challenges all of our assumptions that we've had going into this period. But I think it's a big deal, and I think it's something we should probably pay attention to. Now, the church that I attend in Washington, D.C., has been online only, not, they've not tried to open the sanctuary back up, but has been online only since March. And last Sunday, the church took in 11 new members. I thought that was incredible. 11 new members, even when the church has not been able to be together in person. One of those persons that joined the church announced also that joining the congregation was a new step towards ordained ministry and that he would be declaring his candidacy. That's huge. That's huge. In other words, I don't think that we can look at online church as being a substitute or rather not a substitute, but kind of a stopgap. We need to look at it as real church. We need to look at it as containing all of the possibilities that real church has. And I will just say loudly, if you have a temptation towards withholding ministry, whether that's the sacraments or that's membership or all of these things that generally happen in our sanctuary settings, do not do that. Do not withhold ministry and membership offers to people just because we are in this period of online ministry. It is really a big deal. Now, I want to turn the page just a little bit and talk to you about, if you will bear with me, and we're going to have some fun with the contest here in just a second. If we can talk about a resource that I've created that, again, is a way of me trying to hopefully stand alongside you during this time and offer some help and a little bit of a walk with you. I want to tell you about a course that I've created called the Online Worship Academy. If you'll stick around to the end, we're going to give out a discount code that will allow you to get 50% off of this signature course that is part of our platform. You probably already perfected your online worship strategy, and you've probably already got it set. And so you need to ask yourself, though, are you getting everything out of it that you think you should? Are you making those kinds of connections that you think you should be making? Again, we may be back in our sanctuaries for now, but signs are showing that peaks of infection are taking place now that the cold months are heading towards us, and it's a really good time to sharpen our skills and to take a step back. We got into the online world because we had to figure it out instantly. Now maybe we can step back and look at it with a bigger picture, and that's what this whole thing is designed to do. In this course, I'm going to teach you how to stay enthusiastic. I'm going to teach you how to build your online congregation, build a sense of community in the midst of it. And here's the big promise, okay? I'm going to teach you skills that you can take forward so that you will have more time with your friends and family. How's that sound? Sound good? Processes can be implemented that take less time and better connect you with people. We've been talking about that a little bit today. One of the things that I like to talk about in this course that I teach is that there are principles that are present in the Google algorithm, for instance. I know this is not something we typically think about in the life of the church, but in the Google algorithm and in YouTube, Google has built a business on figuring out how to measure effectiveness and engagement. In other words, they have systematized ways to measure how much you are connected with the screen that you're watching. And we can glean certain lessons from that algorithm and apply that to how we keep our people engaged. And I teach a whole section in the course about how to do that, how to, lessons we've learned from the Google algorithm about how to keep people engaged so that they are participating all the way through our worship services and gaining something from them. I'm going to teach you ways to improve your lighting, simple ways. Everything I do is with the small church pastor in mind, where I know you don't have a budget and I know you don't have a lot of resources to work with, especially during this time. So I'm going to teach you some ways to improve your setup and your lighting. And most of all, I'm going to talk about the importance of sound and good quality sound in your online presentations. It's the most important thing. All right. In a section called the New Church Architecture, we ponder the fact that online worship is actually a new location for ministry. It's no longer an alternative to real worship. In the old days, our online services were an invitation to our sanctuary services. We had online services. We streamed our services in hopes that we would connect with a few more people. Now they replace the sanctuary experience for so many people, and that they are worship in their own right. We have to revisualize our online services. Now they take place in the most intimate spaces, our homes. And what does that mean for how we create our worship services? Most importantly, I think the whole course is built around this idea of the story of the Exodus, the wilderness. We are in a wilderness right now. The church is in a wilderness, and this is a framework that we can look at and think about what leadership looks like in the midst of a wilderness, and how we can take clues from Moses and Moses' story, Jesus' story as he's tempted in the wilderness, and how we can build an effective ministry to move people through. It's a very, very powerfully transformative course that's going to take your ministry in a new direction. And I was recently talking to the head of a denomination that said to me that 20% of the pastors today are going to be able to embrace or willing to embrace this new direction that the church is taking. 20%, 80% will try to fight it and keep doing what we've always been doing. And this head of a denomination told me he believes that those churches will close in a matter of very, very few short years. So I would just like to ask, will you be part of that 20%? Will you be part of that 20% that seizes this opportunity and brings the church into a new day? It is said over and over again these days, be the leader that you would like to see in the world. And this is my invitation to you today, to be the kind of leader that you would like to see in the world. The time is ready for it. Now, for the part that if you stuck around, you may have noticed in the page that I gave you, the page that I told you to look up, you may find a link to the Online Worship Academy. And if you sign up using that discount code that is down at the bottom of the page, if you scroll down, you're going to get 50% off of the course at its normal price. That's $150 savings. For a course, it'll give you about 7.7 CEUs. That's been worked out with Holston Conference. Sue is ready to grant that that credit. So that's a great bargain. And as all good things don't last, I will make sure that you understand that that code is only good till 2 o'clock today. So if you want to get on board with that that discount, make sure that you take advantage of it and do it quickly. All right. I am going to turn over here and give you a nice view of the side of my head, which I love looking at the side of my head. But I am going to pull up the page that allows us to select a winner. All right, winner, winner, chicken dinner. Give me just a second here. This is the, I think we need to do the Jeopardy music, right? Let me pull this up. And I see that we have 51 entries for this contest. This is fantastic. Thank you all for doing that. And I'm going to use the widget to, let me see, I got to find the widget. I'm going to use the widget to cancel that, to choose a winner. So if this, I'm just going to give you another couple of minutes. If you haven't registered for that, go to the lakelandsinstitute.com/advent, and you'll find at the top a form in which you'll be able to register. Okay, so do that real quick. And I'm going to go ahead and end this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that contest is ended. And I'm going to choose the winner. We're going to choose one winner. And that winner is the name is JERRT, and the email address for this person is jones@asburylife.org. So JERRT, Jert, then you're a winner. I'll be sending you an email very shortly with that discount code, or I'm sorry, with your certificate to win the course. And I really do appreciate everybody for entering that contest. I hope that's been kind of fun. Now I think I'm going to turn this back over to Tim, and Tim will be guiding us through some Q&A right now. Okay, so thank you, Tim, and take it over.
Steve, I want to thank you again for giving us this presentation. Thank you for showing us the Lakelands Institute and the academy that you've got going on there. I will say I have gone through some of the first lesson there, and it's fantastic. So very highly recommend going through that, especially with the 50% discount. That's incredible. Thank you for supplying that, Steve. Now we're going to go to a time of Q&A, and we're going to do it a little bit different. If you will make sure you have opened your participants panel, and that's found at the bottom of your screen where you would normally mute your mic and start or stop video. If you have any questions for Steve, if you will raise your hand. Once I see that your hand has been raised, I will call upon you and we'll turn your microphone on and you'll be able to ask your question. If you don't feel comfortable talking, you can also, we've got the Q&A function that's listed. You're more than welcome to type your question. But if you've got a question and want to ask that out loud or in the Q&A function, please go right ahead and do so. All right, we've got one couple coming in here. Richard Rudisil asks, how would you suggest replacing fellowship meals or love feasts during Advent, especially if your church is doing things in person?
My purview really is the online side of it. I think that we have to keep in mind, obviously the conference has provided a lot of good guidelines about how many people can be in a building and what the distance guidelines are. And so it's a terrible time. It's just awful. I hate it. I hate the idea of not being able to get together with people and be together with people during this difficult time. And I'm going to kind of dodge your question by saying there is a huge component of Christian faith that has to do with longing and with exile and with living in the midst of imperfection. And one thing that I would really encourage during this time is to really stay on those themes, draw those out from the scriptures that are given to us during the season. Talk about the imperfection and the disappointment that we're living in right now, and do it in such a way that it invites hope. Obviously, again, it's kind of a go-to suggestion for me because I'm a visually oriented guy, you know, and my fascination over the last however many years has been ways of connecting people through photographs and through video, and you know, these kind of secondary ways that if we can't get together in person, and we can't touch, and we can't see each other and experience each other directly, then maybe this medium of photography and videography and such might offer us another opportunity. I really think I can't really answer your question about how we do it when we can be together. My focus is really around how we deal with it when we can't be together. And Advent is a perfect time to really talk about that aspect of faith in which we are viewing through a mirror dimly. We are living amongst imperfection. We are living in a broken world full of disappointment. And yet the light, the candle, the light pierces the darkness, you know. That's really where I would like to urge everyone to go during this time. Help people connect with that side of faith, Christian faith, that offers hope in the midst of brokenness.
All right, Greg Bostic has a question. Greg, you'll have to unmute your mic and you'll be able to talk to us.
Good morning, Steve.
Hey, Greg.
From a small church perspective, we are using basically an iPhone and posting to Facebook Live.
Okay.
The reality that this is going to be a long-term approach for us, what recommendations would you have to upgrade video equipment, sound, etc., to be able to move forward again on a very constrained budget? I'm asking specifically about equipment recommendations and how to integrate all that technology to continue doing what we're doing.
So are you referring to a service that's like a hybrid where you're in person some, but you're trying to reach out? Okay. So
our churches are open and slowly people are coming as they feel comfortable. However, the reality is a lot of people are getting accustomed to Mattress Memorial, and they enjoy watching at their convenience. We see the trend through the week rise in numbers of views and comments that we get. We want to make it a little bit more polished than what we're doing, and just trying to get a good grasp on what that's going to cost and how that's going to work.
Yeah. I'd love to talk to you directly about this. We've dealt with this a little bit about this in the Facebook group that I created called Growing Your Online Worship. Drawing a blank. What's the name of my Facebook group? Growing Your Online Worship Presence. That's it. We tried to deal with that a little bit. We had a lot of requests for that in the group, but I can get you that material directly. There's several different ways I want to ask for you to consider doing it. One is I'd love for us to kind of break out of the idea that we can only deliver our worship services once. In other words, live streaming is not the only option. There are, what if the sermon or portions of the service were pre-recorded, even as a mode of rehearsing, practicing the sermon? What if that was pre-recorded, edited together using a very simple, you could still shoot it all on your phone. You could still get good sound right off your phone. You can still edit everything on your phone. What if that was one mode of worship, and then your sanctuary service was another? And let me explain the advantages of this. One of the problems that we have, I think, in streaming from the sanctuary is that that at least in the Protestant traditions, worship is not incredibly visual, right? It's not, we have our situation, but for the most part, images are not so strong in Protestant tradition as they are in maybe the Orthodox churches or the Catholic tradition. And so therefore, when you're translating that to a small device, or even if you're able to get your stuff on a TV screen for the folks at home, it's not the most appealing. It's not a setup that they're used to seeing on their television screens. And so it's like a close-up is more friendly, right? And people are used to seeing faces when they're talking a little closer. So I would encourage you to think about ways of producing another service alongside the sanctuary service. Now, going straight to the question that you ask, I would recommend a simple setup with 2 cameras. And those 2 cameras can be just about anything. If you buy an off-the-shelf video camera with an HDMI output on it, today it's going to be a $300 or $400 or $500 camera is going to be way better than anything I could have bought for $100,000 10 years ago. Okay. So the picture quality of just about any camera off the shelf is going to be more than enough. You've got to make sure that you can zoom in tight, but set one camera to a wide shot that captures the whole sanctuary area. Set one camera on a tripod so that you can move it around and do close-ups of different people in the chancel area, and then switch them. I could show it to you right now. I'm using it, but you'll need something to connect those cameras and switch them so that you get one feed out of it. And the one I recommend is a $300 device by Blackmagic Design called the ATEM Mini. Amazing piece of gear. I just can't tell you how highly I recommend that piece of gear. But a very simple setup will allow you to do a pretty good job of live streaming a service using 2 cameras. You set one wide, you set one close up, you switch between the 2 while you're moving this one. Does that make sense? So, you know, you move this one around to get your close ups, and while you're, you know, moving the camera, you switch to this wide shot. And that makes sure that people don't get nauseous while they're watching the service. You don't want nausea during a worship service. So that's it. Does that answer your question?
He's no longer
silenced. That's too
silent.
bad. Hopefully that answers
I
the
want
question.
yeah, we've got one more question, but before we go any further, I also want to let the folks know on here that we are currently working on tech grants to be available for our churches. And I hope to have something together and be able to post that either during Advent or the first of the year. Those grants will go first to churches that don't have any type of setup, but we also want to be able to help churches upgrade their systems to do exactly what you're talking about. So be
Fantastic.
on the lookout for that. We got another question. I think there are several questions that are coming in about the discount code. I want to give Carla Kurtz the ability to talk, though. She has a question. I don't know if it's about the discount code or not, but if not, please address that as well. Carla, if you go ahead and unmute your mic, you can ask your question.
Hi, Steve and Tim. Thank you. No, my question was more of a comment back to what Richard was talking about. So it's beyond the discount code. One of the things I was wondering about, Richard was talking about a meal. One of the ideas that I've had is maybe issuing like a basic menu and maybe having a meal together. And if someone doesn't want to fix the meal as what was sent out, but that way we're sharing a common meal together, maybe over Zoom, I think would be one idea. The other thing I've thought about is our Chrismon tree. That idea of hanging the greens is something that we're going to be missing. And I was wondering, maybe about doing the history of each one of the Chrismon ornaments, or a feature, or, maybe having someone film as their kids are decorating the tree, just something like that. Because I think just what Steve was talking about, that's a way to interact with somebody in their personal space, but trying to keep some of those same traditions.
Yeah, that's great, Carla. Thanks. And I just want to say that the Facebook group, there are several. I think Holston's running one too, Tim, right? But there's a lot of good ways to trade ideas. And man, there's never been a better time for. I just say repeatedly, none of us are experts. Nobody is an expert on any of this stuff. We're all trying to figure it out. And even if what I figure out is right for my situation may not be right for your situation. So the more we can trade ideas and share good ideas, the better off we'll be.
All right, I believe that's it for the questions. Other than the 50% code, people are asking if you can give the discount code again or how you get that code.
Sure. It's the discount code is Holston50. Okay. How's that for easy? It's Holston50, and just all run together. If you scroll down to that page that I gave you that had the contest at the top, you can see a description of the Online Worship Academy. Down at the bottom is that code. And then what you'll need to do is you'll need to go into the store on the website, buy the course, and then enter that discount code when you have the opportunity to do that. So if you have any trouble with it, please reach out to Tim or to me. My email address is just simply Stephen, Steven, at lakelandsinstitute.com. And I will be more than here. I'll even put it up on the screen for you. I'll be more than happy to help you out with that. And I'd love to continue this conversation any way that you'd like to do it. I want to make myself available to you to help talk through things, and any way that I can be helpful, please, let me do that.
Well, Steve, thank you again so much. And I want to thank everyone that has been in attendance today. And just a reminder, we will have more trainings going on, and I highly recommend that you get connected with Steve in the Lakelands Institute. And thank you for providing your email address too, so folks can go in and ask. Oh, I'm sorry. There was one other question Lawrence Hesser has asked. And how do you encourage low-tech members to online options? That's a great question.
It is. That I think what I'm hearing as I have conversations with various people, that there are, especially if you're in a medium-sized church that has, multiple staff and just the ability to do this, doesn't really apply to the really small churches where there's a solo pastor and no staff, but you might be able to do it with volunteers. But there's a real ministry in helping guide people who are not tech savvy through, how do you get connected, getting a setup ready for them so that they can easily access the services. There's a real ministry in that. And you can still do that by social distancing, I think. You also, if you're really willing to step that into another category, there are products like Boxcast, where you can stream your services to multiple platforms. Giving people options is always good because, right, it's they may not be tech savvy on most things, but they might be able to find one solution that works. But Boxcast will allow you to stream to multiple platforms, and I think that it will allow you to broadcast to a custom app that you can create for your church and stick it on people's smart TVs. That's a really interesting idea to me because I spend way too much time in my life watching YouTube. Confession time. I watch way too much YouTube, but I watch it on my smart TVs. And it's really an interesting idea to think about how one might be able to pretty easily and fairly cheaply create an app that that goes that people can just click on it on Sunday morning, and there's the service in all its glory. Again, none of these things are just kind of cookie cutter and easy to do. Lawrence, let me know, man. I will work with you. I will stand at your side and help you think through any of this stuff. And I make that offer to everybody here. Yeah.
All right, we really appreciate this. I do have a question on here that you might want to pull up the Q&A, Steve.
Okay.
We've got a person that's having difficulty navigating the website in order to pay.
Okay.
So you may want to address him directly. And actually, Ken Tucker, if you don't mind, what I'll do after we get offline here, I will give Steve your email address and have him contact you directly. So hang tight, and we'll get him to get over to you here just a quick minute. Friends, again, want to thank you for joining us, and just let you know that more will be coming. And Steve, thank you for your time and your expertise. Really, really appreciate this, and can't wait to do more with you. And I think this is going to be a great partnership for us to come together and share your wealth of knowledge and experience with our folks in Holston. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim. This is a real gift.
All right. Thank you, friends. Hope you all have a great day. Take it easy. Bye-bye.